And the true reason why there is worth in this, why there is intrinsic worth in virtue, is because it leads ultimately to perfection of the human beings. So this third motive, as we were stating, this third motive doesn't look into the benefits. It doesn't matter if there's benefits. The value or the what gives this, what gives virtue importance isn't the benefits, because you have worldly benefits, you're going to have more friends, you're going to live a healthy life, it may enrich you, so on and so forth. That's not what gives virtue and akhlaq its value. And likewise, vices, it's not evil just because of the harms, the worldly harms and the harms of the hereafter, the fires of Jahannam, for example. That's not why not having akhlaq is evil. Vice is evil. And likewise, virtue isn't good because of the benefits. No, this third motive says that virtue is good because it's good. It doesn't lead to another thing. It's good because it's good in itself. There is inherent and intrinsic value in itself. It's worthy of itself. So for example, justice. Justice is a virtue, being just. And kindness. These are both virtues. These two virtues, I should seek them, not for the worldly benefits, because justice, kindness, they make life easier, happier. If everyone is just, we won't oppress each other, life will be much easier, of course. So justice should be sought, but not for this reason necessarily, nor for the benefits of the akhirah, because if you're just, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward you. But because being just and being kind is a worthy and noble act in itself, and that's it. And it ultimately leads to the human being's completion, the human being's perfection and completion. The more virtues I have, the more complete I will be, the more perfect I will be. And that in itself is a goal. That in itself should be a motive of why I should go after virtues. Likewise, when it comes to vice, when it comes to evil and immoral qualities, when it comes to cheating, to lying, to oppressing others, all these negative qualities, they are inherently evil. It doesn't matter if they're going to cause any harm. That's secondary. These vices, they are evil in themselves. And they are cheap acts. They're despicable acts. And when someone commits these acts, these vices, that person becomes cheap. He becomes unworthy. So that's why he should stay away from vice. Not because it has harm, but because it makes me unworthy. And likewise, virtues, they make me worthy. They give me intrinsic value. So the difference between this third motive and the first and second motives is that when we spoke about the first and second motives, why should I go after akhlaq? We said because it leads to, benefits. If you stay away from vice, then you're going to stay away from harm. The third is different. It says, no, I don't care if there's benefits, if there's harms. You should be virtuous at all times, whether there is benefits, whether there isn't benefits, whether there are harms, whether there aren't. Because being virtuous is a good cause in itself, period. That's it. It doesn't have to lead to something else. And virtues altogether, they make us perfect. They make the human being complete. And likewise, apply the same thing to vice. And as you can see, Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, he so beautifully mentions in one hadith. As you can see in the hadith, he's narrated saying, لو كنا لا نرجو جنة ولا نخشى نارا ولا ثوابا ولا عقابا. Amir al-Mu'mineen says in this beautiful hadith, if there was no Jannah, there was no nar, no heaven, no hell, there was no reward, no punishment, none of that, لكان ينبغي لنا أن نطلب مكارم الأخلاق. Even then, when there's no harms and benefits, we would still have to strive to have good akhlaq. Why? You may ask, well, wait a minute. If I'm not going to benefit from being honest, I'm not going to benefit from being generous, from being, for example, kind and just and so on and so forth, and there's no harm in immoral qualities and negative qualities, then why? Why should I strive to not have bad qualities and have good qualities? The Imam says you should still strive. Why? فَإِنَّهُمَا مِمَّا تَدُلُّ عَلَى سَبِيلِ النَّجَاحِ. Because these qualities, these virtues, they lead to the perfection of the human being and to his success. So these are qualities that should be sought no matter what the result is, no matter what the consequences. It doesn't matter what they lead to, because they have intrinsic value in itself. It's like you ask someone, Why do you want to buy gold? He tells you, well, because gold has intrinsic value. You tell him, yeah, but what do you want to sell it for? He tells you, I don't want to sell it for anything. Gold in itself is something that people admire and possessing. It doesn't matter how much you can buy with it for many people. Gold, especially for females, gold in itself is valuable because it never rusts, because it's rare, because it's nice, because. So I don't care how much I can get for it. I like it for itself. Akhlaq, virtues are like that. They're like gold. When I have akhlaq, it makes the human being much more complete and perfect. It doesn't matter what it leads to. It beautifies the human being in itself. And that's why we should strive in having good akhlaq. And that's why Imam Hussein alayhi salam on the day of Ashura, he said a very famous statement. When the enemies came to attack the tent of the woman, because they had no more men to protect them, it was only him left, he cried out to them. He told them, وَيْحَكُمْ يَا شِيعَةَ آلْ أَبِي سُفْيَانَ. Woe unto you, O followers of Abi Sufyan. إِن لَمْ يَكُنْ لَكُمْ دِينٌ وَكُنْتُمْ لَا تَخَافُونَ الْمَعَادِ فَكُونُوا أَحْرَارًا فِي دُنْيَاكُمْ. He told them, if you have no faith, fine, you have no religion, you don't know Allah, you don't care about Jannah, you don't want paradise, you're not afraid of the fires of hell, you should still stay away from the tent of the woman. Why? He says, because at least be noble in this life. Be noble men, free men, instead of worthless, despicable slaves of your desires or of the ruler. When you are a bunch of men and you attack women, this in itself is a cheap act. It's a despicable act, even if there is no worldly punishment for it, because you guys are the rulers. Even if you don't believe in God in the Day of Judgment, you should still not do such an act, because it's going to make you into an unworthy human being. And this is what Imam Hussein alayhi salam was speaking about, that virtues, they give you intrinsic value, and vices, they make you so cheap and unworthy. So even if there was no harm, you shouldn't go after, a helpless woman. You shouldn't go after helpless orphans and children, because that in itself is a cheap act, and you, the person that will do it, will be a despicable, cheap, unworthy individual, and no one wants to be that. So the Imam speaking about this motive, that akhlaq, it gives value to the human being, even if there's no benefits, no harms, and that's why we should all strive in having good